Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the nation, right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Got another great, fantastic Friday show for you guys today. By the way, it's 420. Happy 420 to everybody out there. Interesting story related to that. Chuck Schumer decided it would be an interesting time, or maybe the perfect time, to come out with a bill decriminalizing marijuana. To that I say, okay, great. Now, of course, it's a little ironic. Again, he's look. This reminds me of Steve Buscemi. That meme that goes around. Hello, fellow children. Yeah, of course he's trying to be cool. Of course he's trying to pander. But see, the thing that I don't like about this, I love the bill and I love the fact that it's been introduced. But who's gonna pass it? It's still got to go through Congress and, House, Senate, and then Donald Trump. Unlikely to pass. So while it's a nice gesture, a symbolic gesture, it's still a gesture. And look, we know what it is. But anyway, nonetheless, we got a great show for you guys today. As I said before, it is, as I said, 420, so that's good. I have some disastrous stories for you as well. You are not going to enjoy that. We'll start out with something a little silly. We have the news of Trump's new lawyer. That's fun. And then we are going to talk about CNN smearing a YouTuber, a fellow progressive YouTuber. So we're going to talk about that story. We'll break it down. And then we also have more smears against progressives. Boy, it's quite a day for that. We have the DNC's lawsuit against... You're not going to believe who they're suing, okay? I'm not going to spoil it too much. And then payday lenders. So we've got that going on. So, this will be fun. This will be a fun / sort of angry show today. So I'm going to show off my angry white man. So that should be very, very interesting. First of all, before I get into the show, I want to remind everybody who's watching, please give us a like. Please share out the stream. Helps us a lot. And yes, I am reading in the chat right now. Can't wait for God of War. Believe me, it's good. I got a little bit of time with it this morning before I got to work. And I enjoy it. So it looks really good. And it plays pretty good. So I'm super excited about that. But first, we got some important news to go through. Now, if you want to support the show, support our stream, and look, after the CNN story, we're going to absolutely need your support because you know it's coming. Demonetization, but we'll get into the details there. But if you want to help us out, patreon.com/TYTNation, or donate to us in the Super Chat. It helps keep independent media going and barely hanging on, which is what's happening today. So, okay. Let's get into the first story. Ridiculous Trump story. Who's Trump's lawyer? So, following the loss of... let me go back here. So now that Michael Cohen is basically under investigation by the FBI, had been raided by the FBI, and Donald Trump fired another one of his lawyers, John Dowd, he seems to be lacking in representation. Well, the good news here for him is that there are still some people out there that are more than willing to give him a hand. And this newest lawyer that has offered to do so is comical. This is Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani. So, according to the Washington Post, this is great. Donald Trump hired Giuliani to represent him as his lawyer in the Mueller investigation. Now, they say that his goal will be to negotiate an end to the investigation. There is no way that this is not going to be hilarious / awful. Look, I've never been under investigation anymore, knock on wood, I guess if this is wood. But I'm not sure that's how it works. I'm not sure that you can just negotiate an end to an investigation. Nonetheless, that appears to be his goal. Now, according to the Washington Post, as I said before in this article, it said in recent days the president has been regularly venting and speculating to aides about his legal status and the expected timeline for the Russia investigation to end. See, he's still under the impression that this is going to be over very, very soon. Really? I'm not so sure about that. At least it won't end on his timetable. And of course, this is according to associates briefed on these discussions. Now, what's interesting about this investigation, the Mueller investigation, is more than just collusion with Russia, right? That's what it started out with. It's gone into financial crimes. Now, who here doesn't think that Donald Trump is capable of doing something like money laundering or bank fraud? It's Donald Trump. I'm just saying. You might want to look into who Donald Trump actually is. Nonetheless. So they're looking into that. It's not the collusion they're going to get him on. No, we're way beyond that. It's actually the money. You got to follow the money. Follow the money, Lebowski. All right. So that's where they're going to get their answers. That's where they're going to actually get Donald Trump himself, at least in my opinion. Now, Trump, obviously very, very unhappy about this and very unhappy in general about everything that's been going on. He's had a pretty bad couple of weeks. Trump has also loudly and repeatedly complained to several advisors earlier this week that former FBI Director James Comey, who has been going on a press tour, going after Trump, which is fun, and former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and Hillary Clinton, among others, should be charged with crimes for misdeeds alleged by Republicans, his associates said. Now, there's approximately zero chance of that happening. Remember, lock her up. Not going to happen. Never going to happen. Look, Hillary Clinton rigged a primary against Bernie Sanders. You think she's ever going to face any sort of consequences for that? Absolutely not. So again, good luck. Never going to happen. Now, Trump also complained this week about Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, saying the judge had proved, quote, too liberal in recent cases, according to administration officials who heard about the complaints. That goddamn liberal Gorsuch. But look, Gorsuch, here's the thing about Gorsuch. He is a corporatist, right? So he's always going to back giant multinational corporations. This case about immigration wasn't about multinational corporations. This was about being able to detain and deport immigrants, legal immigrants, who happen to commit a crime. Gorsuch was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. You know, it's funny. Immigrants often take lower paying jobs. That's why a lot of people are very, very angry with immigrants. But I believe that this is more of a case of employers exploiting people so they can pay lower wages. So that's my perspective on that. Now, associates said he was incensed that Gorsuch voted against the administration on an immigration case and said it renewed his doubts that Gorsuch would be a reliable conservative. No. Reliable conservative doesn't mean reliable to Donald Trump and everything that Donald Trump wants to do. That's not what that means. But he looks at it and says, well, I'm the Republican president. I'm a conservative. No, you're not. So, look, if you're not a reliable to me, then you're not a reliable conservative. It just shows you his mindset, right? That everything is focused on Donald Trump and serving Donald Trump. Now, one Trump advisor played down the comments as unhappiness with Gorsuch's decision rather than Gorsuch broadly. Now, remember that that is what they were touting as President Trump's main achievement, getting Gorsuch on the bench, which, by the way, that's a stolen seat. That he stole it from Merrick Garland. Now, I was not excited about Merrick Garland, but the Republicans, nonetheless, they blocked him for a year. And then when Trump became president, he was able to appoint his own guy. I mean, congratulations, Democrats. That's what happens when you appoint somebody who's, and you don't fight, for one. You don't call out this stolen seat. And you appoint somebody that you think would be okay with conservatives, with Republicans. No, nobody would be okay. Nobody was going to be okay. But anyway. Now, so with Donald Trump's terrible week continuing into week 47 of his presidency, he's decided to hire a super friendly face to represent him now that some of his lawyers are gone. Now, they said that Giuliani's arrival is part of a broader shift in Trump's inner circle towards the core allies and brusque and brutal style that defined his outsider presidential campaign and his business career. Oh, this is going to be really fun. There's no way this is not going to end up to be super hilarious. I mean, look, at least he's actually a lawyer and had a little bit of experience before coming basically a clown who for the longest time could only speak in a noun, verb, and 9/11. So that's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see how long Rudy Giuliani lasts. Hey, look, I'm pretty sure Giuliani is thinking, yes, nailed it. Finally, I get a chance at a cabinet position. But this isn't a cabinet position. You're being essentially Trump's bitch. But he's okay with that. He's okay with that because that's what he wants to do. He knows he's got to suck up. So I can't wait to hear what kind of ridiculous things he's going to have to say on Donald Trump's behalf as this continues to move on. It's going to be hilarious. Okay. So let's go into some rage. I hope you're sitting down for this one. All right. So CNN just released an investigation into YouTube ads. You guys know where this is going, right? More demonetization and more brands, of course, leaving YouTube. Now, in bold letters in this investigation, they write, ads from over 300 companies and organizations, including tech giants, major retailers, newspapers, and government agencies, ran on YouTube channels promoting things like white nationalists, Nazis, pedophilia, conspiracy theories, and North Korean propaganda. Oh my God. White nationalists, Nazis, and pedos. Oh my. Quick, gotta get rid of the ads, pull the ads, demonetize YouTube, and make sure that all these companies, you go and spend money on old media. That's the gist of this CNN report. That is the goal. And look, they're already incredibly successful at pushing towards that goal. Look, my channel, I've talked about this before on Twitter. I've talked about this before in videos. I've been demonetized, right? Plenty of times. There are YouTubers out there that as soon as they put up a video, gone, demonetized. And it could be about anything, essentially. Then there's the appeal process and all that stuff. Not only that, but ad fill rates. The amount of ads showed on our channel is really low. So that doesn't help. And of course, some of the recent changes in the algorithm have made it so that most of my subscriber base doesn't even see the video. And if the subscribers don't see the video, then nobody sees the video. And this isn't just happening to me. This has been documented. They've been talking about it on the Humanist Report. They've been talking about it on the Young Turks. Kyle Kulinski over at Secular Talk, he's talked about this. So this has been a big deal, right? This has been impacting all of us. And now it's about to get worse. I mean, let me give you an example. I normally get about 1 to 1.23 million views monthly. At about this time, I'm not even close to half that. My views have been cut in half, and just compared to a couple of months ago. So that's how much just a little bit of an algorithm change has affected me. Add in, of course, the demonetization and more ads that are pulling out. Well, you can get the picture, right? People on YouTube are not doing very well. Now, I believe the algorithm change is in response, of course, to old media. Old media is pushing to delegitimize new media, progressive media. And so this is just another way for them to try to delegitimize those channels and to bring advertisers and revenue and viewership back to old media channels like CNN. So, and of course, speaking of monetization, right? Now they're coming for what little we have left. Now, one of the companies, Under Armour, according to this investigation, is now pausing its advertising buy on the platform after CNN notified the company that its ads appeared on a white nationalist YouTube channel called Wife with a Purpose. Now, look, I haven't heard of this channel. Have you heard of this channel? It's not like it's PewDiePie or not like, for example, TYT. It's not one of these gigantic channels. Well, let me give you the details on what this channel is. First, they have just over 10,000 subscribers. Ooh, oh my God, wow. No, that's a blip on YouTube. That is, look, we've got 73, almost 74,000 subscribers. That's not very many either. That is also kind of a blip on YouTube. So, look, this channel does not have very many subscribers, not very many views either. One of their best performing videos did get about 134,000 views. I can get that in probably a couple of days. But it's also been up for like 2 years. So in reality, that's not a lot of views. And so when it comes to ads being shown in that video, whatever ads you are shown on that video are not going to be hugely significant, right? However much money you're going to make from those ads is not significant. We're not making a lot of money here on YouTube, okay? But nonetheless, what are the brands going to do? They're going to overreact, and they're going to pull out. And I think that's the point. They basically want to scare brands off of YouTube. And they do that by finding some of the most obscure channels that may or may not have run their ads to whatever incredibly small, hateful audience they have. And they can then point to that, and they've done this before, and say, oh my God, look at that, white nationalists. They're watching your ads. They're watching your ads. Now, what are you going to do about it? You need to stop spending money on new media. What you need to do is you need to go back to safe, traditional, old media. Back to the article. They write, the incidents have raised questions about whether YouTube can adequately safeguard ads and brands' integrity, or whether its automated systems mean that advertisers will always be at risk of such ad placements. So what they're saying is, oh, look at that. There's questions about whether or not your integrity will be held up on YouTube. So better pull those ads, better pull that funding, and redirect it to us. Look, they can't even protect your integrity. Your ads are going on white supremacist channels. Here's another quote here from Nicole Perrin. Now, she's a senior analyst at eMarketer who covers advertising and marketing technology. This is to show you how riled up these advertising companies are. She said YouTube's bottom line hasn't been hit. Well, that's true. They make a ton of money. She says if brands want to make sure this stops, the only way for that to happen is to stop spending on YouTube until it's fixed. Fix what? This is not a real problem. What this is this is an attempt by old media to clamp down on new media because old media is fading into irrelevance. Let me give you an example. According to Pew Research, who conducted a poll in August of last year, 43% of Americans now report often getting their news online. That is just 7 percentage points lower than the 50% who often get their news on television. So, television news, we're coming. We're at the 43%. And that was up massively since 2016. That shows that people do not have trust in the mainstream corporate media. Why? And it's because they're the stuff that they cover. You turn on CNN, for example, all day, every day. Stormy Daniels, Trump, Russia. Now, look, I've talked about those two different things before, and there's importance in those subjects, but they ignore everything else. They don't ignore war. Actually, they cheerlead for war, but they ignore things like massive poverty, income disparity, minimum wage protests, all that stuff. We're not getting that information from CNN anymore, from those cable. They have 24 hours to fill in a day. What are they doing with it? Donald Trump, Stormy Daniels, Russia. That's what we're doing. Come on. So, is it any wonder why younger people are leaving? In fact, I had a conversation, I believe it was last week, with just a regular person. I was at a grocery store, and we started talking about media. I know that's a weird thing. And she's like, I don't watch traditional media anymore. I get my news online. Because, and she told me, and I loved this. She said, look, whenever I watch something, for example, on NPR, right? I ask myself, okay, who's paying for this coverage? Who's paying for these people to say these things? Where's the money coming from? And so she basically follows the money. And she sees that's where their perspective comes from. Younger people, they're not stupid. They don't just turn on the television and go, oh, yep, that's absolutely true. Yep, I'm going to listen to whatever Don Lemon says. Or in the case of Fox News viewers, for example, whatever Hannity says, right? No, they don't do that. Younger people follow the money, and they see who's paying for these, people to say whatever they're going to say. And they see the perspective that they come from. And, of course, that is an establishment perspective. That is the perspective of war profiteers, giant corporations, and billionaires. That's why you don't get a regular person's perspective. So, now, online news, like I said, because so many younger people are leaving, that is their prime demographic. They want to keep that around. Since online news is trying to overtake TV, they're like, oh, we can't have that. We can't have that. Quick, find me something to try to kill online media with. And they found it. They found it. In fact, they said YouTube continues to place ads on channels run by the online digital network InfoWars, of course, as Alex Jones' channel, of course, conspiracies and all that. Alex Jones is a nut job. All right, anybody who takes anything that Alex Jones says is not a very smart person to begin with, and probably didn't have much stock in facts in the first place. I mean, he says stuff like,
I want to go to space. I want to see interdimensional travel. It's the devil, okay?
Okay. And of course, here's the best part.
It is an alien force, not of this world. It's not human intelligence.
It's not human intelligence. It's not human intelligence, man. So that's the kind of stuff Alex Jones says. Okay. Thinks the devil is stopping us from space travel. It's ridiculous. So again, if you're somebody who views Alex Jones unironically, you are not likely to believe in facts in the first place. Nonetheless, CNN has also found that YouTube has put ads for Mozilla and 20th Century Fox Film on a Nazi YouTube channel. I love this. They said the company's ad ran on Brian Rue's Nazi channel. YouTube subsequently deleted the channel for violating its community guidelines against spreading hate speech, which is fine. Before the deletion, they said ads ran frequently on the channel. Rue, who was then contacted by CNN for comment, emphasized he did not want to be referred to as a neo-Nazi because he thinks of himself as a, quote, real, genuine, and sincere Nazi. Okay, hey, that's pretty clear. All right. But look, so you took I guess the right action, right? Violated your terms of service, you can do that. You can eliminate, I guess, hate speech, right? Or at least demonetize it, right? But if that's not bad enough, they go through and they point out how some ads have ended up in channels belonging to pedophiles. Now, there's a reason that they're listing the worst of the worst. Again, a lot of these are obscure channels with small viewer bases, right? That in the long run get have actually less views and less subscribers than gaming channels. And this is regular video gaming channels, like somebody streaming a Let's Play. Okay. But let me go into the pedophile channel, apparently. The Genius of Play, a campaign by the Toy Association promoting play and child development, has pulled their ads from YouTube after CNN found that ads for the campaign were placed on Amos Yee's channel, which he has used to promote pedophilia. Yee gained notoriety in 2015 for his YouTube video that praised the death of Singapore's first prime minister. Jeez. After he was granted political asylum in the U.S. in 2017, he began using his YouTube channel to promote decriminalizing pedophilia. Now, of course, that is not representative of the YouTube community. And I'm pretty sure that's a crime. So, hey, look, if you want to demonetize that channel, makes perfect sense, right? But here's, again, the problem. Those aren't going to be the only channels. They're just going to be used as an example of the worst of the worst to try to demonetize everyone. And for that, we go who they are actually really after. That same article says, quote, ads, and this is right after the Nazi and the pedophile, they point out, ads also appeared on the Jimmy Dore Show channel, a far-left YouTube channel that peddles conspiracy theories, such as the idea that Syrian chemical weapons attacks are hoaxes. For one, Jimmy Dore's just asking a question on that. And for two, this is what they're doing. They're basically equating Jimmy Dore, and they're lumping them on together with Nazis and pedophiles. And, oh, what a far-left host. What an extreme person. Really? Extreme? Now, look, there may be some things that I disagree with Jimmy Dore on. Mainly the Russia investigation. But Jimmy Dore is nowhere near extreme. Okay? In fact, when it comes to issues, I'm with him 100%. Not only that, but I admire his passion. Okay? You want to go for a passionate rant on how we're getting fucked by the establishment, you go to Jimmy Dore. He's got that shit on lockdown. Okay? To lump him in with Nazis and label him as some part of the extreme far left, when he fights for things like Medicare for all, which has over 60% approval rating, free college, also incredibly popular, a living wage, and a fair and honest media, that is nothing more than a ridiculous smear. This is a hatchet job. And it's not the only one. There was another progressive host, YouTuber, activist, that was also smeared. Anoa Changa. Now, look, she got smeared by an Atlanta NPR affiliate. And this is somebody, this is from reporter Johnny Kaufman. This headline was titled, Atlanta activist uses Russian-backed media to spread message. So, because she was on a couple of shows that were carried by Radio Sputnik, she's obviously must be a tool of Russia. See, like, look, a lot of people have told me, hey, look, be careful when you actually talk about Russia, because there are people that are using this, that are weaponizing this narrative. And they're absolutely right. Now, I try to stick with facts, and yes, I have my own speculations when I talk about Russia and the Mueller investigation. But they're absolutely right when they say that this can and will be used as a weapon against progressives, and that's exactly what they're doing to Anoa. So, and look, Anoa, she's somebody that I respect greatly. Her and the Progressive Army, headed up by Ben Dixon, also an excellent progressive. And they're fighting off these smears now. So, look, this is what they're doing, man. They don't want progressive voices out there. They don't want people who are going to challenge corporate media and challenge establishment narratives. And of course, so one of the ways to get rid of them is to, for one, take away their source of funding, their ability to finance their shows through advertising. And look, true, we don't have I guess we're not entitled to get paid for our opinions, for sure. Okay, fine. Nonetheless, this is not just because of okay, let me say that again here, and try to clarify what I'm saying. When you have a platform that has been built on something that was, for example, able to be monetized before and questions establishment narratives, you shouldn't have the rug pulled out from under you, right? You shouldn't have this algorithm here that is out to basically make sure that you're not heard and seen. And again, one of the tactics that they're using, of course, is to try to demonetize, to make it so that you can't make a living. If you can't make a living off of YouTube, then it makes it very difficult for you to get out your message to other people and to challenge establishment narratives. So that's the big problem here, right? So, and look, they're doing this because establishment media is incredibly afraid of the new media voices, because look, our job is to hold them accountable. And make no mistake, they're going to continue ratcheting up these attacks. So what we're going to need to do is we all need to support each other. Okay? We all hands on deck, right? Progressive hosts. Look, even if we have problems, in the past, even if we've disagreed on certain issues or still don't agree on certain issues, we're all progressive. We're all on the same team. We're all on YouTube, and we need to band together, and we need to fight for each other. And more importantly, fight for a fair and honest media. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a quick break here. We got more stories. We got another smear against Bernie Sanders we're going to talk about. So, fun times. All right, we'll be right back. Around the Nation. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation, right here, T-Wiki Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. If you haven't already, please give us a like and a share. I'm going to read a super chat here. Karen Sheets writes in, "What does not kill us makes us stronger." Fair enough. Yeah, yep, that's true. It's true. And she has a question. Please answer this. Is Alex Jones human? I believe he is 80% man, 80% bear, or 80% dog. I'm not sure. I'm not sure quite the percentages on that one. But he is a hybrid of something. Or maybe he's just 100% shit. That could be that as well. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the question. Super chat is a way to help the show, by the way, keep us going in this era of demonetization and YouTube hosts struggling to get enough funding to continue the show, which sucks. But anyway, let's move on. We've got a ridiculous smear against Bernie Sanders I'm going to talk about. Okay. So lately, the establishment press has been on the attack against people who have been very critical of the status quo. Now, one example is a CNN story that recently went after Jimmy Dore, attacked him as an extremist and somebody who's likened to Nazis and conspiracy theorists and all that. And of course, earlier than that, an NPR affiliate smeared Noah Changa as a Kremlin tool. Lovely. So now we have a news story from Newsweek that has targeted Bernie Sanders. Now, they write, the American porn star and writer Lorelei Lee said that Bernie Sanders had been disrespectful to her mother during one of his speeches at a Democratic Socialist convention decades ago. So here we go. So this story, Newsweek, picks up from Twitter about Bernie Sanders and says, ooh, an anecdote. Let's write about it. Okay. Now, according to that anecdote, Lee's mother had signed up to a convention and wanted to take her then 18-month-old Lorelei with her. Now, she was apparently promised child care, but on arrival was told by organizers that there was no longer any budget for it. So, no, socialist. How can they not? How can they call themselves socialists when they don't do child care? They had to cut the budget on child care. Oh, they don't care about children. Again, that's sort of the framing that they are trying to present in the story. All right. Now, she continued with her anecdote, quote, so she was like, okay, I'm taking my kid to these talks then. She then went to hear the keynote speaker. We were in the back of the room. I was playing with a toy and making some toddler noises. It is then when the keynote speaker snapped at her. Quote, the keynote speaker stopped what he was saying and said, could someone tell that child to be quiet? Oh my God. You are telling a child to be quiet. How dare you? How dare you? She said, my mother's never been a patient woman, so she lost it. She stood up and started to shout with vulgarities. How dare you? How dare you pretend to support families and working women when the first thing you cut during a budgeting failure is child care? Folks, that keynote speaker she stood up and swore at was none other than Bernie Sanders. Oh my God. How dare he pretend to support working families when he cut child care and then told that child to shut up? You see the framing on this? This is absolutely fucking ridiculous. But there's more. She said she told that story my whole life, but has never felt more significant than this week when our friend Bernie, who voted for FOSTA, tried to make himself relevant by quoting I am Cardi B. That's, of course, Cardi B. Recently when he's like, yes, I agree with Cardi B, when she talked about how Social Security is good because it protects old people. So, okay, so let me give you some background, although it doesn't necessarily, I think, matter to the entire narrative, but she did mention FOSTA, and that is an interesting thing to talk about, right? So, look, Lorelei Lee is an adult film actress. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And look, you try to shame her for just that, then I'm not going to be happy with you guys, because I don't think there's anything wrong with sex work, okay? Now, Bernie Sanders voted for SESTA and FOSTA. Now, that was a terrible vote, and I completely disagree with that legislation. That said, I think why these politicians voted for it, they didn't know what was in it. I mean, that's a consistent thing, right? That we see from politicians. They have no idea what they're voting on. Even Bernie Sanders sometimes, yes, doesn't know everything that's in this bill. And what was in the SESTA bill, of course, is harmful to sex workers. I've talked about that before. I was one of the few people to actually cover it. So if you want to criticize Bernie Sanders on SESTA and FOSTA, have at it. That is a valid, legitimate criticism. But don't come up with this story. Now, why do I say that? It's because there seems to be a few holes in this story. Oh, and before I get into that, I just want to address, right, that the whole framing of this story is meant to paint Bernie Sanders as not only a fraud, but a sexist who is mean to children. So, and for trying to make himself relevant by quoting Cardi B. He's already relevant. In fact, he's kind of the most popular politician in America. Doesn't really need to try to be relevant. He sneezes and somebody covers it. But anyway, look, again, let's go to how, let's talk a little bit more about the SESTA-FOSTA vote, right? So, look, again, terrible vote, right? And it looks bad. But you also got to remember, this passed with near unanimous support. So I don't see any other hit pieces on other senators that also voted for SESTA-FOSTA. So maybe if you pointed those out, I would be like, oh, okay, so it's just a broad criticism. Okay. Again, if you want to criticize Sanders for that, I will too. Great. Now, you probably should have kept your criticism to just that, because, again, there appears to be some problems with your story. For one, the timing doesn't line up. Now, in 1982, Lorelei would have been a year old. She would have been a toddler. Okay. Now, at the time, that would have been at the time of this DSA convention. The problem is, there wasn't a DSA convention in Burlington in 1982. Now, there was a DSOC-NAM convention, but not a DSA convention. So they hadn't actually, I believe, formed the DSA at that point. But okay, look, maybe she just got the name wrong, right? Well, let's explore a little further. Now, that convention in 82 was also not keynoted by Bernie Sanders. Turns out he wasn't even there. There was no Bernie Sanders. That keynote speaker was now deceased Michael Harrington, and had been addressed by CBC member, that's Congressional Black Caucus member, George Crockett. So Bernie wasn't even there in 1982. Now, in fact, the first DSA event that Bernie Sanders had addressed was actually in 1986. That, of course, was 4 years after this alleged incident. Interesting. Now, Bernie Sanders' first convention was in 1991. That's 9 years after this alleged incident. And, of course, that's a year after the DSA actually endorsed one of his campaigns. So, now, let's go to the keynote, right? His first keynote speech was in 1999, 9 years after this alleged incident. And so, 17 years after this alleged incident. So, she would have been 18 at the time, Lorelei had. So again, she's missing some key facts here. She's getting things wrong. I'm not saying that she's a liar. I'm just saying her story doesn't hold up when you look at the times and dates. So, and it's important to get some very basic facts and actually do the research on the story, right? So that's where Newsweek has failed. Newsweek is asking us to believe a secondhand anecdote on Twitter presented by a woman at the time or who at the time was a toddler. And it was 35 years ago. So excuse me if I have a difficult time believing this story on face value. Now, this is shoddy journalism, right? And shame on Newsweek for using this story and for using this story to smear Bernie Sanders. Look, if you're going to run a non-factual story like this, designed with the stated intention to further what is a consistent narrative of Bernie's sexist, he doesn't care about families, he's a fraud. Well, look, I'm going to call you out. Because you know what? That's what actual journalism is. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Oh, you think I'm done? Nope. Not done. Okay. So earlier today, the DNC, in what must be an after effect of smoking too much weed, has decided it'd be a great idea to launch a new lawsuit. Who is this lawsuit against? Russia, WikiLeaks, and Donald Trump's campaign. And of course, it's over allegedly conspiring to destroy Hillary Clinton's chances of winning an election. Now, NPR is reporting this suit, and they say that it is unlikely to yield any outcome. However, it advances the theory about alleged collusion between Trump's campaign and the Russians. So, here we go. Launching a ridiculous suit, even before we know the results of the actual investigation into collusion. That's wonderful. Now, the DNC writes in the suit, the conspiracy constituted an act of previously unimaginable treachery. The campaign of the presidential nominee of a major party in league with a hostile foreign power to bolster its own chance to win the presidency. This is really stupid. And look, I'm one of the people who actually does believe that Russia did try to interfere with the election. But you know what? There's a chance that I'm wrong about that. That maybe they didn't interfere. Or maybe they did. You know what's not a smart thing to do? Launch a lawsuit before we actually know the fucking answer. I mean, for Christ's sakes. If Mueller does not find any evidence of collusion, you're going to look really fucking stupid. Of course, they're banking on them finding something. Now, what I think they'll find is massive financial crimes. And look, there's already so many people that have been indicted related to the Trump campaign that have done financial crimes. Michael Flynn, Michael Cohen is being alleged to have done wire fraud and things like that. Paul Manafort, George Papadopoulos. You can go down the list, right? There's a lot of people who have had alleged financial crimes. So if you're going to get them on anything, that's where you're going to get them. However, that said, this is a really stupid move by the DNC. Look, let me tell you what. Russian interference likely wouldn't have had too much of an impact on the election. Now, what had more of an impact? Voter suppression. Voter suppression is a huge problem. In fact, you've got Chris Kobach out there that came up with the interstate cross-check. And you had voter suppression, for example, in Wisconsin that prevented 45,000 people from voting during the general election. Donald Trump won by about 20,000, 22,000. But no, let's blame Russia. Let's blame Russia for what Republicans are doing with voter suppression. That's wonderful. That's a great strategy, DNC. And look, this wouldn't have been such an impact, by the way, or had such an impact, had the election not been so close in the first place. I mean, look, the DNC, the Democratic Party, chose the literal worst person to run against Trump. Somebody who had massive, massive trust issues. Somebody that was tied financially to banks and giant corporations, Goldman Sachs. And the plethora of issues, of course, that she was not progressive on, in a time where the electorate is incredibly interested in populist progressive ideas. No, we're going to run as a status quo candidate against somebody who was promising to change the system. Not very smart. And not only that, but look, we knew this was going to happen. We knew Donald Trump was likely going to win because look at the polling. You had polling where Hillary Clinton was either tied or just slightly barely ahead in the polling. And of course, Donald Trump outperformed the polls because the pollsters, they didn't consider first-time voters that were excited by Donald Trump. So they completely discounted that and ended up obviously having polls that were very much off. So there you go. But instead of course, talking about that, no, we're going to talk about how it's not our fault for botching this election. We're just going to blame Russia. We're going to blame Comey. Although no, Comey is now a resistance hero, which is funny. Jill Stein, Bernie Sanders, WikiLeaks, rural voters, progressive voters, Republican voters, swing voters, non-voters, and of course the DNC itself. Wait a minute, she blamed the DNC? Yes, she did. She did. She even blamed the fucking DNC, which is amazing. So here's the thing, right? You have the DNC that's basically ignoring the very reasons that she lost. But they're doing so on purpose. It's not like they're stupid. They're acting stupid. They're doing something incredibly stupid. But they're doing so for a reason. And that reason is to resist becoming more progressive. That's what the real resistance is about. We're just going to resist being progressive. Great plan. Great plan. You're going to resist supporting good policy that polls very, very well. So what are they going to run on in 2020? Trump is bad. And we'll see how that works out. Look, man, here's the thing. They're doing this at a time where this could absolutely blow up in their face. Again, the investigation continues. And so what if the investigation doesn't turn up any collusion? Blow up right in their face. No, here's what the DNC should be doing. Here's what the Democrats should be doing. Promoting progressive policy. They should talk about Medicare for all. They should talk about a free college. They should talk about a living wage. They should talk about strengthening bank regulation, because we need it. We should talk about climate change, universal child care, no more interventionist wars. As if, of course, the Democratic establishment would do that. They love interventionist wars. So what they do instead, because they don't want to do any of that, is sue Russia, WikiLeaks, and Trump over stealing an election. Now, let me tell you why that's ironic. They basically rigged a primary against Bernie Sanders and stole a primary. Donna Brazile, for example, she was caught feeding questions to Hillary Clinton's campaign. There was also people being deregistered, weirdly enough, in certain places where they, oh, look at that, you're not registered to vote, looks like you can't vote. These are Democrats. These are lifelong Democrats, which, look, a lot of them were in favor of Bernie Sanders. Very likely. Some are also probably in favor of Hillary Clinton. They also got disenfranchised. Weird. And look, I pointed out a lot of different things where you had irregularities during the primary. It's no surprise, or it shouldn't be a surprise that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, by the way, was found to have put her finger, thumb, entire body on the scale for Hillary Clinton. That's not an accident. They had already chosen their candidate. They had already chosen the person that they wanted to be the Democratic nominee. So Bernie Sanders, get out of here. We don't want you. No, we've already chosen Hillary Clinton. It's her turn already. It is her turn. How dare you interfere with that? And we're going to smear you 12 ways to Sunday, and we're going to make sure that you don't get any time to go on debates. We're going to vastly reduce debate schedule. We're actually going to let the Republicans take the narrative by letting Republicans do their debates first. We're also going to elevate Donald Trump by, colluding with the media. And again, this has been shown, this has been documented, to try to elevate Donald Trump using the Pied Piper strategy. Oh, there's no way we could lose against Donald Trump. He's a clown. Well, he's a clown. But guess what? That clown is president of the United States. Look, the entire DNC is complicit in the election of Donald Trump. So again, it is completely ironic that the DNC would then turn around and sue Russia, WikiLeaks, and Donald Trump's campaign over losing an election. Absolutely, it would be absolutely hilarious if it didn't mean the destruction of our country. Because that's what's happening now under Trump. Okay. So, let's get to payday lenders. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is now announcing that it will drop sanctions against payday lenders accused of running a predatory lending scheme. Well, that's no surprise now, given who's in charge. Vox reports that the agency headed by Trump appointee Mick Mulvaney has dropped the sanctions against the NDG Financial Corporation. That is a group of 21 businesses that the agency, under Obama, had accused of running what they called a cross-border online payday lending scheme in both Canada and the United States. Mick Mulvaney, man. You know what the joke is? Again, Mick Mulvaney called the CFPB a sick, sad joke. No, him running the CFPB, that is the sick, sad joke. But nobody's laughing because everybody's now getting ripped off because they're letting people like this go. So let me give you some details on what this NDG Group corporation had actually done. Now, the scheme, according to Vox, primarily involved making loans to U.S. consumers in violation of state usury laws and then using unfair, deceptive, and abusive practices to collect on those loans and then profit from the revenues. Now, this is according to CFPB lawyers back in 2015. I'm assuming those lawyers are not there anymore, or they're not given jobs to do, because Mick Mulvaney is not interested in doing any enforcement. They're not interested in doing any investigations. They're not interested in protecting consumers whatsoever. Now, they continue. The CFPB's lawsuit has been winding its way through the courts until Mulvaney took over the bureau. One of the lead attorneys defending the payday lenders was Stephen Engel. Now, there's an interesting connection here. Stephen Engel is now an assistant attorney general at the Justice Department. Well, golly gee, look at that connection, right? So he was defending the payday lenders, and suddenly he gets this nice position in the Trump Justice Department, while Mulvaney, who was paid millions of dollars by these same payday lenders, gets to head the company, or the agency, that presides over these companies. Weird. No, this is the corruption. This is corruption. Look, this has been happening over and over again, right? Now, in February, the agency dismissed the charges against these 6 defendants in the case, according to court records. The reason for the dismissal was not explained in the court motion, and the CFPB declined to answer questions about the case. We know why. Because guess what? They're friends of Mulvaney. Possibly donors. And now, of course, the CFPB is terminating sanctions against remaining defendants, according to their latest report from to Congress. Now, a federal judge had sanctioned the uncooperative defendants by entering a default judgment against them, which held them liable for the charges of unfair and deceptive business practices. The next step was to figure out how much they would pay in damages. That is a step that the CFPB is no longer going to make. And again, this is exactly what they've been doing. And it's not just this specific case against this specific group, but all the cases against different payday lenders have now been dropped. For example, in January, they dropped another lawsuit against 4 online payday lenders that allegedly stole millions of dollars from consumers' bank accounts to pay for debts that these people did not owe in the first place. So wait a minute. This company basically stole your money, millions and millions of dollars worth of money, from people who did not have a debt. That's theft. And here the CFPB goes, under Mulvaney, no, we're not going to investigate that. No, this not a crime. That's, you know what? We're just gonna ratchet down our operations and not worry about punishing these payday lenders. They've been through enough. Now, there's a different payday lender, World Acceptance Group, which, by the way, is a past donor to Mulvaney, also announced that the CFPB dropped its probe of the South Carolina company. In March, a Reuters investigation found that the agency had also dropped a lawsuit lawyers were preparing to file against another payday lender called the National Credit Adjusters, and that Mulvaney was weighing the possibility of halting lawsuits against 3 others. You know, the only people that they went against that the CFPB has actually fined? Wells Fargo. I'm assuming that Wells Fargo is not a donor to Mick Mulvaney. That's probably the only reason. Or, well, I mean, we got to do something, right, to make it so we don't appear to be so biased. By the way, Wells Fargo isn't a payday lender either. You know, those cases that they dropped sought to return $60 million to consumers for these business practices that are predatory and illegal. And yet the agencies, for some reason, can't explain why the cases were dropped. But I'm pretty sure we know why. Payday lenders gave Mulvaney tons of cash in the form of legal bribes, campaign contributions. Like, anybody who says that money does not impact the way a politician votes or what they do when they're in office or when they get power, they're either wrong, lying to you, or defending Hillary Clinton. Like, this is another example, man, of the swamp. Mick Mulvaney, see, his corruption, you got to understand, the corruption inside of the Trump administration, it's not a bug, it's a feature. That's exactly what he was put there to do. And that's exactly what he was paid to do by these payday lenders. All they're doing is they're just getting a return on investment. And that's all it is. This is the number one reason why we've got to continue to fight to get the money out of politics. If you don't, this is going to continue to happen. Okay. Alrighty. That's it. That's all I've got for you guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Thank you for the super chat. Karen, that was awesome of you. I appreciate that. Because that goes to help fund the show and keep us going. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching. And remember, hold on. I got to remember. I got to remember, actually, we'll be here on Monday. So we'll be back. We got a full week on Monday. So with that, remember, change begins with you. Night, TYT Nation. Have an awesome 420. And have an awesome weekend. And I'm going to go play some God of War later. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you then.